everyone, and welcome to If Your Clothes Could Talk. This is where fashion speaks and we listen. I'm Viki, and I'll be your host. Well, look at what we have for you today. Handbags, I've just always had a mad crazy thing about them, and that still goes for today. I wanted to show you some of my favorite handbags and some that are what I consider to be works of art. I hope you enjoy. But first, we're going to start off with the history of the handbag. Now, don't start yawning or get bored. You'll like it. It's going to be educational, but not in a boring kind of way. I wouldn't do that to you. So I'm just going to kind of give you a summation of how we got to where we are today, because look at this. That's just crazy good, isn't it? Okay, I've got to calm down because I mean, handbags, yeah. So here we go with the history of the handbag. Handbags are by no means a new invention. And in this piece that I did for research, imagine back to 38,000 before the Common Era, 38,000 years before that, hunter-gatherer humans were using bundles and pouches made from fibers to store and transport food and tools. They had, of course, a drawstring purse, which was worn dangling from a belt, worn by both men and women in the time of the ancient Romans, switching to the Renaissance and going beyond. The women's handbag, as we know it, is a much more recent development in the long history of the handbag. Let's talk about the birth of it. Prior to the invention of the handbag, women carried necessities in their pockets. Pockets were, of course, at that time a man's garment, and women's pockets were an entirely separate garment. And get this, everybody, worn tied around the waist under the women's skirts. Think back in your mind to centuries ago. Imagine, look at Marie Antoinette's dresses. I mean, she could have had umpteen pockets underneath those skirts because the skirts had such a large volume. However, when fashion changed to the high-waisted gowns, well, you couldn't get away with having these big, bulky pockets showing. So, of course, what did people do? Well, it became a fashion faux pas, that means don't do it, to wear these bulky pockets underneath one's gowns. So it was about in the 1790s that women decided, we just can't do this. But of course, as in all things concerned with women's fashion, there was controversy. There was a political component to things. Let me tell you a little bit about that. So when these undergarment pockets died, that's when ladies' handbags were born. The first handbags were essentially women's pockets with handles attached to them, but because they were worn under a woman's skirts and close to her skin, guess what? They were considered to be undergarments. Just picture that. So, when bags for women first became popular, many people viewed them as vulgar or obscene. Listen to what Carolyn Cox says in her illustrated history of handbags. These early handbags were also daring, one of the first examples of underwear as outerwear, and thus for many a rather absurd affectation. The idea of a woman parading her personal belongings in a visible pocket was an act akin to lifting up her skirts and publicly revealing her underwear. Aside from the scandal of walking around in one's undergarments for everybody to get a peek at, some women viewed handbags as a really poor alternative to the pocket that they had been wearing for more than 100 years. Early American feminists fought this loss of pockets. Why? Well, because they believed that handbags would never be as practical as pockets, and they also saw that as a division between the sexes, because if men got to have pockets, and women used to have pockets, why can't they have pockets anymore? So, pockets became symbolic of the inequality between the sexes and the struggle for women's equal rights. So, Whether you were in favor of a handbag or you were against a handbag, nevertheless, they became an essential component of a woman's daily life. And as we know, put your mind back a few years to pictures that you've seen of women over the years. The size, the shape, the decoration, and the fabric or the what the bag is made of has really, really changed in form and function. Now, this cracked me up when I read it. It says, with the rise of the department store as a respectable location for women to meet outside of their homes. Think back to that. A department store. Oh, well, that's where women can go and hang out and look at beautiful clothes and talk to their friends and be safe. And the men in their life would not have to worry about that. But at the same time, it was very freeing for women because they could stay at the department store for hours and hours on end. And that was a freedom that women had never had before. So, of course, with spending hours in a department store, you're going to need to have a larger handbag. And so that's one of that's one of the major changes that women went through with regard to handbags. Now, at the end of the 19th century, early 20th century, good old Louis Vuitton, whom as we know, used to make and I guess still does make luggage. They went ahead and went one step farther and got made handbags. And what's one of the features? They're utilitarian. Don't we love it, ladies, when you open up your handbag and there's lots of individual little compartments in there, your pens, your mirror, your lipsticks, those can all go. And also, they featured very sturdy handles and some type of snap or zippered closure. And so, with that in mind, handbags became a woman's personal signature piece. This also I found amazing. Ladies, listen to this now. Men who have long carried a lady's fans or her money men were supplanted by increasingly practical, brilliantly structured bags, and they have been mystified and excluded by the handbag ever since. And I'm sure all of you know what I'm talking about. Your mom. She would say, "Bring me my handbag." She never would say, "Go in my handbag and get this," because, well, it's personal. Who knows what you're going to be carrying in there? And forward ahead to around the time of World War I, women's roles were rapidly changing because men had gone off to war and women had to actually work outside the home. That brought about a lot of changes. Picture the roaring 20s. What did women do? Well, they cut their hair short, they wore shorter skirts, and they had handbags that they could actually dance with on the dance floor. So, handbags have always been a reflection of the times, the political situation, and the social milieu of the time. They became a barometer of the times. Think about this now, and this is still true today. In times where people were prosperous, where they had a lot of money, then that was reflected in the handbag. Jewelers like Cartier got in on the act and started making, in the 1930s, they started making handbags that looked like jewelry. They were actually made from silver or gold. Think back to the 70s. Women wore bags made of shiny materials. Why? In part because there were a lot of lights on the dance floor, which would reflect beautifully off a very shiny purse. And in the 80s, which was the era of conspicuous consumption, handbags became larger and we got to know them as a status symbol. Ladies, if you see someone walking around with a Jane Birkin bag, we'll talk about that maybe if we have time today. But if not, we're going to go into that in itself and find out why Jane Birkin, who had no idea that this was going to happen until it actually happened, why do those Jane Birkin bags now today go for $18,000? There's a reason for that. And if you see someone walking around with the Birkin bag, you know they have substantial means. And that's a status symbol. Now, World War II. what was going on. Again, men at war, women at work, not a lot of excess. So when that happened, guess what? Handbags became more practical, less flashy, less shiny. And then we got what we call now the crossbody bag. There's a woman going off to the factory to make machinery or whatever she was doing during the war. And wasn't it convenient for her to hop on a bike and have a handbag that she didn't have to carry? So it was a hand-free bag. That was very, very practical. So again, politics, handbags, they go together. Think of where we were in the 1960s, during the hippie era. Women wanted to make a statement, but they also didn't want to look the same as everyone else. What happened in the 1950s, though, was the invention of, oh my goodness, what a nightmare, of plastics. And so women began to wear all kinds of plastic handbags. Even the plastic material lucite is a type of hard plastic. Women were wearing handbags made of that until they found out that they actually melted in the heat and gave off noxious gases, which that's not fun at anybody's party. And almost here to the end, ladies, think about if you can remember the first Prada handbag. It was made of nylon ballistic material. And you're thinking, wait, what? They became very, very popular because they were so sturdy. And even today, those are some of Prada's very best selling handbags. So, what's the future of the handbag? Well, we don't know. It depends on the political situation. It depends on how much money we have. All of those things are going to go into making the handbags of tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Now, I'm going to start off with handbags that in my mind look like art because those are the best handbags of it. Look at this. I mean, come on now. You wear it like this. Isn't it gorgeous? And when you open it, you unzip it. And of course, ladies, you have to have material in your handbag to keep them poofed out a little bit, don't you? So it's just like this. And I love wearing this in the summer. I bought it from the store COS, which is one of my favorite stores, and it was not overly expensive. And it's just delightful, isn't it? That's a work of art. That's more than a handbag. That's a work of art. As are these. Lately, I've been going crazy. Well, that's not quite true. I have probably 4 more of these at home, but recently, all of these were purchased within the last couple of months. And why? Well, because I thought, I'd like to have some that look more lovely than just kind of the utilitarian bags that I had at home. So, with that in mind, I wanted a yellow handbag and I did not want to pay $400 for it. So, I looked on eBay and found this little number. Look at that. It's made of wood. Look at the handle. Isn't it gorgeous? And it's got the little clasp in the front, which I've opened. And look at that. The gorgeous green lining. Isn't that wonderful? And I think 1 or 2 of these that I brought actually have mirrors in her. And the felt is just lovely. So this handbag cost me, I don't think that $40, and you can't beat that. And I just love it. And every time I go out in with these handbags, I always get a lot of compliments on them. Look at this one. It's in perfect shape. It's brand new. It's made of wood. Look at the handle. The color just is perfect. And guess what all this is? It's a New Orleans street scene. So as you turn it, it's an octagonal shaped purse, as you can see. You get like a panoramic view of a scene from New Orleans, and how sweet is that? So, but here's my favorite. Look at this. It has an elephant on it, as you can see. I took this for the first time out a couple weeks ago, and every time I put it on the counter to make a purchase or took it into my office, people just said, "Oh my gosh, I love that." Look at the little beaded handle, everyone. Isn't that just great? And it has the clasp. Let me just show you how it opens. Look at that mirror. Isn't it delightful? It's just perfect. And you can be sure if you wear this bag out or this one, no one else is going to have a handbag like that one. It just is not going to be possible. And isn't that nice every once in a while when you can do it to feel totally unique in your bag collection. So, okay, so now we've done the wooden ones. We've got about 10 minutes left. Let me make sure that I show you. And are these art? I think so. Don't you think so? Look at that. They're just gorgeous. The next one I want to show you, well, actually, there are two. These are Angela Frasconi bags. And she was a designer living in San Francisco. She got cancer and passed away, but not until after she had made gorgeous handbags. And so if you can get your hands on one now, especially that's in just pristine condition like this when you have to grab it. And they're not all that expensive. I got both of these. This is her other ones. Look at the dogs. Isn't that wonderful? People, when I take that in place, people are like, oh, because the colors are so bright, it's attractive. And so then you think, oh, and then you look closer and it's different breeds of dogs. And notice how it opens. Just a little pop. You've got your snaps right here. You've got interior compartments, and you've got a shoulder strap as well. So you couldn't want for anything more with your handbag, could you? But I want to show this one in particular because look at that. Isn't it just gorgeous? Oh, it's in pristine, absolutely perfect condition, and there's nothing not to like about it. Again, a snap, this beautiful red interior with different type compartments, and again, your shoulder strap. I like taking this to not formal events because we don't have many of those up here in Eureka too. We don't have a lot of formal events that we attend, but I like to take this when I want a little dressy feel or a little color pop. So I consider all these bags down here to be works of art. We're going to kind of start wrapping it up a bit with Kate Spade. I brought these two. This one, when you're doing your color block with black and white, which I love color blocking. And then every once in a while, don't we just want a pink handbag? It's got that girly feel to it. And I love the contrast with the black and the pink. That's just absolutely perfect. So, but here was the thing with Kate Spade. Some of you may remember when she first started making handbags, they were just so playful and unique and stylish and well made with leather all the time. Not all the time. She did have plastic handbags and so on, but that probably 10 years ago, that's when I owned 5 or 6. Well, I still do. I just didn't I couldn't bring all my handbags. But times have changed though, and they do, don't they? When a small company gets really popular and then sells to a large conglomerate and the quality of their work just goes down. Also, of course, I don't know if you know, but she had some mental health issues, and so she was depressed and ended up taking her own life, and that threw her business into a tailspin. Of course it would, wouldn't it? But I like to I still like to get a Kate Spade handbag. This one was from the actual Kate Spade website, and this one, little plug for the cancer shop, the Discovery Shop over there on F Street. That's where I got this one. It was a tiny bit pricey because the condition of it was so good, but that's I still do love Kate Spade. I have a python bag. You know, there's an infestation of pythons apparently in Florida, and so they they make those snakes into handbags, and I've got this really large one that's Kate Spade that I just really love. And then look at this one up here. You might think, "Wow, a Burberry." Well, it looks like one, sort of, But if you know your fashion, everybody, you see this is not a Burberry. But when you first glance at it, it looks as if it could be. And again, I got this one at the Discovery Shop as well, and we do love to support our local thrift stores, don't we? So, I like this one. It's very, very large, and there's not much that you can't carry in that bag, and it's very chic, it's very modern, and so I like that bag a lot. I don't use it a lot simply because it is so large, but I'm congratulating myself because I used to have absolutely huge handbags. I had a huge wallet and sunglasses and all this kind of thing. But now I've gotten so I can tuck all of my belongings in a small to medium-sized purse like this. So I feel very proud of myself. And lastly, let's see, which one haven't we looked at? Oh, yes. It's hiding back here. Look at this like cute little bag. Isn't it wonderful? With the I love pearls. So you've got your pearl shoulder bag here and this pearl snap opening. Watch what happens when you go in. There's a little tiny bit there if you want to go to the chamber music performances or to the symphony, then you could take a lovely bag like this. And I'm here to tell you, yes, of course, you could spend a couple or $300 on an evening bag, but you don't have to. You can shop at any of the local thrift stores, and there are going to be bags that are as lovely as this, for a price that you can afford. And I think that's all. So, once again, everyone, keep in mind the history of the humble, or in some cases, not so humble handbags, and we do love them. Another thing I love about handbags is they add a pop of color. They don't necessarily do that, but they can. If today I'm wearing yellow. If I'd wanted to go with it, I just brought this Louis Vuitton just to show you, and from my intro about how he went from making luggage to making these matching handbags. But anyway, I could go ahead and just wear mostly yellow and color and carry this wooden bag, which would be a wonderful combination. But if I hadn't been rocking this one today, I probably would have gone with this. But let's say that you're wearing all black or all one color. You can add a handbag that pops and just gives you a wonderful look. Do you guys remember? This is probably like 3 weeks ago. I was showing you a woman who works for Who, What, Where. She was wearing a red maxi dress with a bright Kelly green small handbag. Boy, that's all just instantly changes your look by having a handbag that is colorful and makes a statement. Next time, we are going to be talking about a few more accessories, but we might take a little break. I'm going to have another guest coming up to join us, and she's going to be talking about scarves and belts. But for now, I'm so excited about colors as I look at all of these colors. We might take a little break and have our next show be about color. And I'm going to bring in a very large copy of the color wheel so you can take a screenshot of it. And that's going to help you get dressed because you will know, you will be able to be deliberate in your choices of what you're going to wear in terms of color. Yesterday, I did what some people would think was not a cool thing. I wore a bright red dress with a purple blazer and a red flower. Maybe you've heard that you're not supposed to wear purple and red together, but it's not a crime. No one's going to come and arrest you. And you're going to stand out and in a good way. And especially in these times, women are expressing themselves because of the political situation that we are in. People are having to cut back on finances. And so they're coming up with ways to say, I'm here, I've got a voice, I'm going to speak, and watch what I'm wearing. Like that watch this space kind of thing. That's what we've got going on right now. So thank you so much for joining us. And again, handbags. one of the greatest inventions of all time. And now you can tell your whoever, your colleagues, your kids, your husband, whoever, about how handbags came to be. And don't we love them because they are that mysterious private space that no one enters but ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us. And please keep in mind and listen closely because your clothes are always talking and your style is the story that only you can tell. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.